if you have what to hear, things that you want to tell us, and also advise us on how we can expect things in Chingola to be. This is a business discussion, and from the chamber side, as we welcome all of you, we want that, as I said, on my behalf and behalf of the Chingola Chamber of Commerce, I warmly welcome you to today's business talk. This is a business meeting. We are encouraged to feel at home amongst all business members of the community. The environment for this meeting has a chamber culture of your business nature, and our moderator is asked to maintain this atmosphere. All of our guests are asked to listen attentively to Mr. Nabu, his presentation, and learn as much as possible from his talk. The Chingola Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for the year 2014, amongst the things that we have prepared for the district, we are planning to hold the annual awards. And these awards are intended to recognize people that are performing well and companies that are performing well in the district. We also intend to host a website for the chamber. This will, of course, increase the number of Chingola Chamber of Commerce and Industry membership. And this, in turn, will also increase the number of business talks that we hold. And in the long term, the Chingola Chamber of Commerce and Industry intends to have its own chamber house. This is a long-term plan, and for this, the chamber is looking for ways and means of sponsors or financiers to make the chamber raise almost a $1 million kwacha for us to have this project started. These planned programs for the year 2014. The presentation for annual award, this will be held at the very prestigious hotel within the district. The budget for our annual awards was very, very low, since it will be the first ever annual awards. You know, we are coming from a background where the district has been in this process that we felt as a chamber. We have to start activating things and making the district work up to start doing business. So we should stop working like the depressed state and start being active. So those companies that have been doing well, we think they must recognize that this annual awards presentation that we get the budget of 60,000. We've only raised 4,000 for this presentation that we have to hold. For some of your captains of industry and decision makers, the last 3 months we've come to your offices, we've written to you, or we may have spoken to you directly, asking you to participate by financing this program for 1 hour. So far, we've only raised 12,000 from the required 6,000, and we still have a deficit of 28,000. So, as we do this as Chamber of Commerce, we'll be hosting our website. If we host our website, we thought this will help us increase the number of members. And in turn, this will help us raise money to run our secretary. And definitely, you know, with the exposure that we get on the website, we'll also be able to invite people to come and give business talks to entrepreneurs, and definitely increase the number of training programs that we hold for the district. That's one of the biggest roles of the chamber. There are a few things about the chamber that I think people that have been invited to come will love to know what the chamber is. How does a chamber operate, and what should we expect from the chamber? And just a small word of a reminder to everyone of us. You know, we are all coming from business hours. And the case here, the chief executive here, is amongst the business community. And I certainly expect that this business talk must be in an environment where we are more of learning from each other. And like where we put KCM under pressure. Everyone of us expect that if KCM performs better, of course to be benefit, to the benefit of everybody. And so KCM, the chief executive has been invited in that context as a person who is running a business company within the district to come and talk and discuss the happenings of the district with us. He has not come in his official capacity as the chief executive officer of the KCM. And as such, he will not be talking KCM policy. This year's portion for reasons best known by his company. So, as such, we expect the environment to be as such. But of course, we also want to listen to us as much as possible. You can put the questions that you want to put to him, that you can take with him. Then after, between us, the chamber and KCM, we will arrange for another meeting where your consent and the KCM's position, we can go and discuss it and see what as a chamber we can do to break the relationship between KCM and the business community. I hope this will be agreed by our guests. Now we agree, please. We had invited him and we made assurances that he's being invited in this capacity. Small things about the Chingola Chamber of Commerce and the industry website. That I'm presenting to you. It's a draft. I'll give our personal writing specialist just 2-3 minutes to guide you through what we have on our website. And if you feel you can make comments and contributions on what the website for Chingola Chamber of Commerce must be, please feel free to come and advise and put in your contributions. Mr. Can just guide us through in a very short video, since it's not our day.
So this is a temporal layout of what we designed. We have a slide show.
Yes, thank you.
So we have a slide show of Chingola to show you all the activities in Chingola. Then basic information about the Chamber of Commerce, membership, mission statement, contacts and all that. And then it gives us all that publications from the Secretariat, so you'll be able to, members will be able to download forms from the website. You have a live stream, like right now, this meeting is online. You can view that from there. And then you have members having accounts so that whenever there's information to be given out, the Secretariat will just write one email and to spread out to all the members. So basically, that's, you can just make that a subscription. You'll be getting daily updates about meetings and the like.
For membership, just to assist you, Mr. For membership, if you want membership forms, you can download them from the internet. That will be available for you to pick up. On our mission statement, just the mission statement. All of that, you'll find it on the internet. What the chamber can do for you, what is it that you can expect from the chamber. Then, on the front page, as they want to generate funds for the Secretariat, this space is available for sponsoring. We rates are inside, you can get rates. will be shown. The front page we have there, we will have running pictures where if you want to advertise on our home page for a period of 6 months, you just pay us 3,000 points. On the side, most of the front page also, the insurance companies, banks that want to advertise their business. On this left column, right column, there will be a specific way you can advertise on very low rates. You can advertise your business from there. Then there will be another page where smaller companies can advertise for a very small rate. And you know, since this is the chamber, you need to support your district chamber, and we are in contact with our colleagues in other chambers throughout the world that if they need to look for businesses to do, in business houses to do business with, they can get them through our website. Those of you that are not members of the chamber, this is the opportunity to get exposed at very, very low rates. Please, you are very welcome to see our secretariat and buy in through the chamber, participate to do business through the chamber, will support you and also as you support the chamber. My name is Frederick Sonda. I'm the president of the Chingola Chamber of the Province of Industry. Now I invite Mr. Nandu to talk to us and tell us a few things of what we can expect in this text. Welcome, Mr. Nandu. Thank you
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for affording me the opportunity to come here and interact with the chamber. Mr. Gardner has, I think, sent me an email about 2 weeks ago and extended an invitation. And I very quickly called him, actually. And I think we spoke before. And he said it's a big opportunity. And I think I would have also said to Mr. Gardner that KCM fully intends to start playing a big role in the community where we operate. And here, I wasn't talking CSR to him. That there's local government, there's associations, there's a community that KCM needs to play a big role at actually. And I indicated to him that it's opportune because we've also within KCM been discussing that group. For so long, our eyes have been to SACA, central government, big people in the nation. But we must put our feet on the ground and start working at home. I jokingly said to him that the last time we had an invitation, we were not well prepared because at that meeting we were maybe deservedly so the recipient of very tough statements about what KCM was not doing correctly. So I jokingly said to him, we hope that we are not again walking into the lion's den where we will be. Because we have had a tough background. And the last 1 year, the resident of Chingola would know that. That is just the reality. But given that preamble, I'm personally very grateful that I'm able to come here. KCM is just a business. Whether it is big or bigger than the next business. At the end of the day, it's just a business. There's a chamber of commerce and industry at which KCM must play a significant role. Not a bullying role, not a big brother role, but just participate in it. And it is my personal sincere hope that that will come to pass, that KCM is playing a meaningful role. The reason that is important for KCM can even be selfish. Because if KCM participates with feet on the ground, without feeling that it's a big organization there and everyone else is small. And indeed it's big. But a selfish element would be whether it's in CSR, whether it is in business, we will not buy the proverbial that dog to someone who needs some other information. So it's very important. At the onset also communicate here that we've not had a CEO at KCM since November. We've had acting CEOs. This will come to an end quite soon. Very soon we'll be making an announcement appointing a CEO at KCM, and he's coming externally from outside the country. But it is important and very good for us. We can't wait for that to happen because it will help in giving us the stability that we require as an organization. And we start focusing and working correctly. And like I've said, it's my personal desire that being part of the management at KCM, we see how we refocus ourselves and play a more meaningful role. This night, like like Mr. Msonda indicated, it's a first meeting that maybe KCM is participating this way. And I think being a first meeting, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you agree and accept that it becomes an interactive engagement, rather than one-way traffic where I give a speech. I didn't come with a written speech, but I came with a document which I can't resist the temptation to read that again time around. Maybe a good place to go to is 2000. At the time at which KCM was, and the time at which the big family of ZCCM, to which most of us were associated, and probably a number of people sitting here, also were directly associated at least. I'm stating what most people here would know because we are Chingola people, where the head office of KCM is, and the larger organization, the larger operation of KCM is based at. Anglo-American bought the KCM operations, Konkola and Changa, the smelter at Nkana, and the pyrite mine in Namibia. And there was no secret, it is not backbiting for lack of a better word. Anglo, when they bought these operations, actually, their sites were predominantly Konkola. Anglo used to run these operations together with Konkola up to about 1970. At which point, as a country, we nationalized. Like our friends, the Chileans, have just done in forming Kodioko. And then they had the third big mining operation, big copper producing country, Zaire at the time, and also formed Chekami. So it was the way things moved. When Anglo sold out their majority shareholding to the government, they retained 28%. So Anglo were actually always there, they never went out. They started these operations, the government took a policy and took over a majority shareholding. Anglo diluted their shareholding as a result of that transaction and became a minority shareholder sitting on the board. And part of the arrangement was they retained the preemptive rights, particularly to the purchase of these operations, if the government decided that they would privatize again. As we were getting towards 2000, at some point they had retained that preemptive rights only for Konkola, because that's where you had the bigger resource, the big money and stuff like that. And the reason I'm giving this background, obviously, it is for the interaction, just to remind each other where we come from. But more importantly, it in some ways helps to explain some of the challenges that we see with KCM. So that is how Anglo, we are focused on Konkola. I remember myself personally, at the time this transaction took place, I was working in Europe, and I joined 6 months after Anglo had settled here. And I'm saying this because it's a personal explanation of Anglo Police, I met it. At the time I was joining, the gentleman inducting me was the Vice President of Talent, Mr. Nick Schoolman. And after discussions, he very quickly took me to Robin Mills' office. Then they were in that smaller building, most they were renovating the general offices as we know it. And he introduced me to Robin Mills and whatever. And the first thing Robin Mills said, we were standing just in the office, he let me sit down. He says, like, no, welcome to KCM. There's a lot of work to do here. Our future is in Konkola. And personally, actually, I was joining mainly for Konkola. You know, we're doing the project study and seeking funding for the Konkola Deep Mining project to kick off. As for everything else around here, it will run its life, and then our future will be Konkola. The likely operation that will continue is the tailings plant because of the CRO materials and in fact, we proceeded on to Tim Watson's office and we reiterated this. Lo and behold, 2 years later, Anglo announced obviously that they were leaving these operations. There were a number of reasons given or speculated because they did, I don't think Anglo, I can remember any reason Anglo gave up to them. They were just moving on. But at the time they were moving on, they had just bought a mine in Chile for about $1.3 billion. And like the Chilean mines can be, they're almost like the consumptions of this world and even bigger. Open pits, in some cases, even mining a mountain. And big resources, you know, the lower cost quota. I mean, they're on the lower cost quota, very low cost and stuff. Anyway, Anglo moved on. And then we entered the gap period between 2002 and 2005. At that time, we were looking for a strategic equity partner as a country. And our late president, Mr. David Monawasa, may so rest in peace, you know, along with the rest of the country, did not take lightly to this large company, which had given a lot of hope to this country by buying these assets and then dumping after 2 years. And actually, at the risk of wasting your time, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I have a lot of nostalgia for those times. But he correctly insisted that you cannot leave. If you leave and cause us a huge problem in this country, we shall follow you to every corner of the earth and tell everyone in the world what you've done as a company to come here and cause hardship in this country. I think the number of people might be correct. As a result of that, Anglo committed that they would indeed move on and leave, but they would do everything possible to make sure that this country did not suffer as a result of it. That is why you find that Anglo left by December 2002. Having announced in January 2000, they left by December 2001. So having announced somewhere around January 2001 or something. But their management stayed here for 1 extra year, up to March of 2003. And then they helped facilitate a trust that actually managed the board for this to go on. When we went ahead and sought the strategic equity partner and negotiations, and the number of people, the number of companies did, and that is how in November 2004 it was announced that Vedanta, an Indian company, had been selected to buy the majority shareholding of the KCM. And I think it is a fact that that information was not well received in this country. In part due to what had happened in Washa. In Washa, where another Indian company had bought that asset in 1997 and did a very bad job, amounting close to stripping assets. It seems most of the money that was generated in running that business. And I think Wansha at the time, I did work there myself up to 1995. Wansha at the time, they were taking over, was producing just above 50,000 tons of copper per annum. And it seems what Binani did without opening Pandora's box in me describing this was to almost bring back just the minimum amount of money that they required to pay salaries. And I think once was brought out around 97, 98. And as if that wasn't bad enough, they went ahead and borrowed in the local economy. And again, those that have long memories or the following things, remember that actually there was a syndicate of banks that came together to put up a loan to Wansha. Okay. So they, it seems whatever copper they were selling wasn't coming back. They had also bought Konkola copper refinery, and that thing was stripped and things like that. The reason, by the way, Mr. Msonda, I discussed with him outside that I'm not necessarily speaking KCM, although we can't speak the two, is that I wouldn't like it to be quoted like, the KCM CEO says this about Binani. That is the only reason. And I thought we would be interacting in that sort of sense. So things like this background I'm giving are my personal opinion. And the reason I'm giving them like that, I'm a Zambian. And we can talk about these things because we are business people. But then it's not so easy to split between the person and the organization that I'm acting as CEO. So just in case I'm misquoted, please do not say the KCM CEO said that you deny this, handle this, please just there. Unless you like me to completely narrow it down to things that are not misquoted. Having said that, and pleading for that understanding. Having said that, that is how Binani had bought Konkola copper refinery, completely stripped it. In a refinery, for all information, once you've shut it, and especially the older ones that were aligned with lead on the cells, you can make a minimum of 2 million, maybe even 3 to 4 million dollars, getting the metal, the lead, and selling it, getting those bus bars which are copper where the current was passing through, and that's exactly what it is. Completely stripped that refinery. And the money that the copper they were selling, that was realized, just never came back. And if you fast track, I can't remember whether it was now 2000, 2001, August, they went into receivership. And nearly caused the banks that had syndicated the local money to collapse. And so on and so forth. And I'm sure we all have our different versions of anger as Zambians on how that privatization did not go correctly. And it was in that, it was with that background that it gets announced in November 2004 that another Indian company had bought KCM. And KCM under Angu, although they were only here for 2 years, was a company that people were very proud to work for. Very, very proud indeed to work for. And Anglo, when they actually took over, they made people almost line up. If I said, we want you, we don't want you, we want you, we don't want you. And the ones that did not take the pay off, immediately when taking over announced that 5% salary increase, things like that. And they went, they were basically refurbishing everything. I mean, painting, which unfortunately is the reason they left, because after 1.5 years, they had spent so much money, and obviously the board which was sitting in London said that we spent so much money. You haven't even raised the money for the KG. How much money so it became difficult. But they came with the right attitude. And I can't remember it was the employer of choice. And people were falling over each other to try and work for one another, things like that. So given that background, just announced that an Indian company has taken over. Obviously, it was received extremely negative. And that is how we now fast forward to March 2005, or February 2005, when the junta takes over and the new CEO takes the business. It was clear even to the new strategic equity partner that in this environment, the welcome was not that strong. And I've been part of senior management. I was part of senior management even before Getana took over. So you actually saw that. And the discussion was that, what do we do about this? the resentment that is there before we have even started doing the job. And by 2005, we start getting to 2006, 2007. The infrastructure in the community and the township, which was previously maintained by ZCCM, after 5 or 6 years post ZCCM, even the infrastructure was beginning to show its cracks. I don't know what Anglo would have done later, maybe with the experience of working in these operations. Within 2 years, obviously, the infrastructure hadn't started decaying. So you had all those things taking place. And from the KCM perspective, the significant matter is that the company decided to have what we perceived to be a very strong CSR outcome to try and make a difference and get acceptance, and but not just CSR, but also work very hard in two respects. The assets that we are now taking over, and this is under the Dantas KCM, in 2005, 2006, 2007, obviously we are somewhat tired. We needed a lot of investment. Apart from that investment, we needed also to open up some satellite mines, open pits, make that a short life, because the big open pit, whether it's underground, they had seen their best time, and etc., etc. So there was a very aggressive effort to do that kind of investment. And evidence of that is there, that the investment has happened. But if you fast forward more to the current situation, what you find is that the business has made some challenges. The challenges that are related mainly, like your business people, you will experience when you are in an expansion mode. You'll be very challenged if you are running your business, whatever it is, and you are focused, especially if your business is like in mining, where the assets you are running now, you have a very strong fear that if you don't open new assets or invest a lot of money in them, they will deplete. And in mining, if you have not opened new funds and you allow things to deplete, it can be a big problem. So the kind of stresses that brings to your business is that you are left in a situation where the money that you make from your business, most of it is pumped into expansion, together with whatever you might want from outside. And it has not helped KCM's image that there has been this very expansive investment. I don't know that there are many people who would doubt investment that obviously, but the reason I'm mentioning that expansive investment is that it will cause you a stress on your business. In other markets, and that is why 2 or 3 years ago, there was an effort, you might remember, for KCM to list in the London Stock Exchange and also list locally. Because the more effective way of raising money for a company for capital investment is precisely in the market, and that is by listing. If you've not listed, you don't have many choices but to either borrow or be an extremely profitable business that makes a lot of money, such that if you are investing in all your projects, it doesn't cause you a debt. The listing obviously did happen, and maybe we can discuss that later, but one of the main reasons the listing did not happen was that when you go into the market to list your business, especially in these international markets, you have an idea of what value you expect the market to give your company. And there was a mismatch. In the listing of KCM, obviously, there was an expectation that our value would be that much, but the value that was brought in the market was on the small side, and it was felt that maybe let's wait and see. We defer this and this at a time when we go into the market, we might realize the bigger value. But I'm mentioning this to state that that caused you the lack of a market or listing or whatever, raising money on the market. It was either debt or generating from your current business. And there would probably be some business people sitting in this room who would have been on the receiving end of the ever so tight cash flow management that KCM required to endure over the last 9 years. Because I did say recently on an interview on TV that we were actually running two objectives, and we almost had two businesses in one. One business, the normal operation, the other business, executing projects. And executing projects is actually a full-time activity. And the level of projects, if you say no, $2 billion, $2 billion, $2.8 billion, $3 billion, I mean, those are just figures. But some people like to measure your investment in terms of steel. They'll tell you that, no, in this shaft, 5,000 tons of steel was gone in. And engineers who might not be financial, they will understand 5 tons of steel, 5,000 tons of steel. They will understand that, oh, it's a huge. But there will yet be other people who will not really appreciate how big it is. But the investments have been huge. Where is KCM right now? KCM is at a point where it is fairly poised to develop or to realize the benefit of the investment that it has done. But it is also at quite a critical juncture, because it's at a point where, on account of this incessant investment, its business and the cash flow is constrained to quite a stretched level. And companies that collapse rarely collapse because they are not making a profit. Companies usually collapse and become liquidated because they run out of cash to continue to fund their business. That is fundamental. There's more companies that collapse because of cash constraints. On paper, they've made a profit, but the cash is just not there. How many times have we been on a personal level actually said, like, no, money is there, I've worked 15 days, I'll get the money at the end of the month, but it's not in my pocket. And if you didn't find someone who gave you any money or bought you willingly, companies do actually collapse. But if individuals were like companies such that it's just not there, you can't find it, we would occasionally tell stories of how one family died, like when the family next door just died. Why did they die? No, they are farmers, and then somehow the way they manage their money, they invested anything in the crop, and the best crop, the way it's coming, they will make more money than anyone. But unfortunately, until they harvest their crop and they sell it, they have no money to buy food, and they died. That is the significance of cash. And when you look at the crop that they have, on which you say they're going to harvest, when you actually estimate what they will harvest, what they will sell, indeed, you'll be able to confirm that they are richer than everyone in the streets. But because they're the mismatch, they didn't have the money to feed on, they collapse. It never happens like that with human beings, because somehow, we're able to find our way out. But for companies, it is quite feasible, and it happens very often, that the company has a big shaft which has sunk. It has more than 200 million tons of oil resource. It has modern smelters. It has modern concentrators, but it's in a crisis. It can't borrow anymore because it has borrowed already. The projects in which it has invested the money shows a lot of potential, but it has that gap, the same gap that our example of a family have. KCM has that gap right now. It will not collapse because of that gap. I know I'm making a strong statement, considering the stress that the business is under. It will not collapse because of that gap, but it does have the gap. If it crosses this critical period of the next few months and going on up to 1 year, 2 years, certainly as you get to the 3rd year, this company stands to become much stronger than it has been before 2000. Production, now KCM, obviously, and within management, the language we are speaking now is that, you see, don't go out in the community and put a sorry face for people to do so. If the community is displeased with what you're doing, or has the perception that is wrong, the problem is not the community, the problem is yourself. So we must step back and see how we do things differently. So that if we think that there is something good that we do, it must be seen. Because goodness is earned. Goodness is not obtained through a good speech or talking. It's earned because people read the activity, what you do at the moment. And if you're a mining business, it is what you do every day over a sustained period. So there are these stresses that KCM has. It has the historical legacy that it has. That historical legacy takes many forms. It takes the form of being the next Indian company after the it takes the form of a legacy of sitting as the predominant company in the seat of Chingola, as it does in Chingola. And also having a former company that sat here and maintained everything, and played a very significant role in that community. It sits in a city where mining has taken place for 70 years or thereabouts, where actually it was mining that found a bush here. There were people, of course, from the first hut they created as the general offices. I think if you go in the archives, you will find things that people were running from one building to the next because they might be caught by lion and things like that. And Chingola was born there. And mining created this. So it's a mature mining community. Everyone knows about mining. And that's a community in which, as a private company, over now 13 years, but especially that there's been 3 changes in these 13 years, you need to reset yourself and see how you operate that community, in that community. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I said at the beginning that the language within KCM, and obviously hopefully actually speak louder than this, the language is that we must firstly put our feet down, play a significant role in the community, tighten our belts, and see how we tide over this stuff next few months and the next year or thereabouts, and become a good citizen and a company that actually the community of Chingola, including the employees, are once again proud. I realize, of course, those are just words, but that is the commitment that is there. I'm confident that the next CEO that is taking over at KCM will do precisely that, and the management will guide that in that direction. Lastly, in conclusion, when a company is as big or has as dominant a role in a business community as KCM has, it brings its challenges. It brings very strong challenges. Because if that company exercises its muscle too recklessly, it can injure the community, the same community that it needs to work with. And then also on the other side, the smaller businesses, and I say smaller businesses not to be derogatory or to be sort of patronizing. We can't deny that we have one monolith here, a big case here. Then there's small businesses that exist in that community, like in the community of Chingola. I think the smaller businesses that are in that situation, especially the large number that would have their businesses depending on this monolith, needs to step back and think in a different way in terms of how they engage with that business. Because the normal business is that we have equals. Business works well, or any situation works better when you have equals. When the business is the large one to the smallest, the gap is not so big. But if you have a situation where one business, maybe the volume in terms of money that it deals with is in billions, and as a percentage is probably 99% of everyone else put together. or even if it's 90% of everyone put together, this is a significant distortion. I think that is why Anglo, when they took over in 2000, having had the experience of working in this kind of environment for many years, one of the things they did was to make a decision that at this level of business, we shall take these small to medium enterprises and place them under CSR, so that they do not have to compete with everyone else, such as, for example, an Atlas. And that seemed to work well for 2 years. By the time we are coming into the gap before the data came in, that was a bit distorted. Certainly by the time the data was taking over, that CSR department has changed so much. And what you have then is everyone was swimming in the same pond. The big sharks that will do business with KCM, whether it's a Sandvik, a Ballowell, or Autotech, which is a multinational itself, or the smallest supplier of food or services, or horticulturists, I think that they were all treated the same. And to this day, that is how KCM is engaging everyone. During this stressful time of the past few months, or maybe past 2 years, a deliberate policy was made. And we tried to follow this to a large extent, that can we make sure that if we are going to delay any payments, we must not delay payments of the smallest businesses, because it means more to them than the bigger ones. Okay? To some extent, that has worked well. What we are now saying is that we must make sure that this works better. Partly as a result of the meeting I alluded to earlier, which was a very tough meeting, at which we were present with my colleague here, our manager of corporate relations. When we got back, the engagement that we are having is that we do not necessarily have to go back to the way Anglo did things, but there is a strong case for us to review how we relate within the community of Chingola and other sites that we operate at, and also the way we engage with businesses that may not be that big. We've paid lip service to local economic development. There's 1 or 2 cases where it has worked, but not worked very well. How can we more seriously see if we can identify some of the smaller industries that show potential, whether it's machining something or doing that, and we work with them so that if they have genuine potential and not our brothers or the people who want to meet in the middle of the night and share the sport, but for the genuine recognition of potential and capability, that we recognize a few, guarantee business for them, that they'll get the orders, and such that they're able then to source funding up, and they create that, and we start replacing some of the things like that. Obviously, these things are nice to say. They might make you popular when you say them, but when it comes to implementation, they are tough. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm just indicating that that discussion is beginning to take place. And the way even the holding company has been structured with the appointment of the former CEO for Rio Tinto as the chief executive of the Danta, and also the appointments that are being made, especially outside India, where we are putting into practice getting mining people that work for other organizations to come into here. And the CEO candidate, the strongest that may come to KCM, has that kind of background. We think that we might actually get where we are beginning to implement this. I can't stand here and say that no, in the next few months you'll see this good thing happening here and there. But I think a person like me that has been associated with KCM for these past few years, I'm beginning to see that I think some good things might happen, but we just have to wait. We just have to wait and see how these things pan out. The important thing is that we are beginning to look properly. I did say that there is one article I might read And I think I'll read it because I wasn't able to memorize what is contained there. This article is about Walmart, the largest retailing company in the world. Walmart dominates the retailing business in the entire United States, and they ventured even into Europe, almost to the same extent that KCM dominate what maybe is exaggerated, but they dominate very significantly. It's bigger than GEC, it's bigger than Tesco, it's bigger than all those put together. It's a huge, huge, huge company. We're talking about $400 billion of revenue. Together with Dell Computers, Walmart is known for one thing: tough negotiating. The catchphrase for Walmart is that lowest prices every day. And that's how that company has grown to be as large as it is in the US. Lowest prices every day. It's a retail. I mean, it was the first mall. Now with malls everywhere in the world. And it's just as big as that. I'm sure some people, you can Google and Walmart, you'll just see that it's as big as that. But the reason I'm mentioning Walmart and Dell Computer, but particularly Walmart, is that for them to get those, to sell at the lowest prices in retail, they have the most sophisticated technology to achieve it. In fact, some people were saying that the computers, the servers that Walmart has, some people have argued they're bigger than the servers that the Pentagon uses, because they use technology. Logistics and everything, and buying, wherever they buy from, they will squeeze you. In fact, it's in the US, but the room where they meet contractors and suppliers is almost like a clinic. One chair here, one chair that's under complete. Very intimidating. They negotiate and squeeze you as much as they can. And the article that, if you bear with me, I'm going to read just a synopsis of the way Walmart is viewed. Why am I saying this? I'm not saying that it is correct for KCM to be as tough negotiators as this. But I'm saying this to say that one of the things that culturally changed with the coming of the data is tough negotiating. I worked for SCA myself. The policy at the time was you put out your tenders and you fix your tender boxes, and when you open your tender boxes, everyone is there to see that it's transparent. And you pick out the committee seats, you pick the top three that, in fact, you pick all of them, you check, they will be provided they are technically equal, the lowest case it can be moved. No negotiation. Negotiation of funds. But obviously this has changed. Under KCM, they will negotiate. And obviously that has not been pleasing. We live in the same community. I have a lot of colleagues, family members who say, like, what's wrong with you? Why do you negotiate like this? You want to, you are corrupt, you do that. But I'm just making the point, not justifying. I'm making the point that negotiating actually is a way of life. Even the most technologically advanced and the largest company, Walmart, Dell, and everyone else negotiate. And actually, KCM are small boys under the gun compared to Dell Computers at Walmart when it comes to negotiating hard and squeezing the supply and contracts. Obviously, culturally, you have to change. I think in the next few years going forward, with the private environment that has been created, the legal environment, and moving away from the central economy that we had in the First Republic, I can personally see that our children and our grandchildren will be very much accustomed to that environment where negotiating as a business and getting margins will be a way of life. But I think the manner in which obviously the data came in with KCM maybe caused a bit of social shock as well. And I'm mentioning that maybe it's probably one of the aspects that would have caused some stress. But there's room for, I alluded to this area. If you are a business and you are in this environment where there's this monolith, a large 99% big thing, we need to, whether from the chamber or whatever it is, to sit back and think hard how we want to engage with this thing to get the best deal out of it. Because it might become a way of life going forward. So to just conclude, whether it makes sense or not, let me just read this and you can make what you like, and then hopefully we can have a discussion. It was written by Peter P. Stark and James Flaherty. It says, for years, manufacturers or distributors' biggest reasons for celebrating was landing the Walmart account. Then get in business with Walmart. Just like people get business with KCM, it's a big thing. I have the contract with KCM. This is Walmart now in the US. But the story that is not told often is about the pressure that Walmart puts upon its suppliers to bring everyday low prices to their customers. It is common knowledge that whatever price Walmart sets for products from each of its 21,000 suppliers this year, the price will be lower than next year. And if the supplier does not agree to the lower price, we can guarantee that Walmart will threaten to remove all of that supplier's products from their shelves. Walmart tells the companies when they are no longer willing to buy their products that they are working on the art of SKU optimization. And your SKUs are no longer utilized. There is some good news in these hardball negotiations. First, there is no doubt that customers have benefited from Walmart's drive to have suppliers squeeze their profits. Second, some have even said that Walmart is partly responsible for helping the US keep a lead on inflation. And third, if you are a supplier to Walmart, they will force you to lower your price, which will force you to become more efficient, leaner, faster, and more productive. So how can Walmart do this to both huge and small companies? Even those who have products that are strong household names. It's easy. Walmart is the world's biggest company. Walmart is bigger than ExxonMobil, General Electric, and General Motors combined. It does more retail business than Target, Sears, Kmart, JCPenney, Safeway, and Kroger combined. The challenge for suppliers becomes a negotiating decision similar to the ones that a crack addict has to make. If you move forward with the decision, it feels good. Take the fix and make the sale. But it destroys your health, physical and profitable. You know the decision of lowering your price is going to increase your sales, but most likely erode your profits. Why do companies move forward with their decision and cave into Walmart's demands? Like the crack addicts, it feels good. And the thought of telling anyone you just lost your biggest customer hits so bad. 30 days ago, I was planning to write this article and tell you that Walmart was one of the companies who effectively used this walkway strategy negotiation. Walmart requires companies to lower their prices and then dumps them if they refuse. This seemed to work for Walmart at first because it's obvious they have a much better battle, best alternative to a negotiating agreement than their suppliers. As long as you never have to work with your counterpart again, as I imagine Walmart believe they would not, this is a highly effective strategy. Yeah. Some of their suppliers have even gone out of business or bankrupt when Walmart utilized their walking away strategy. So why would Walmart even care about their suppliers? Because as Walmart has since experienced, very seldom are negotiations one-time affairs. On March 8th, Bloomberg reported that Walmart is bringing back some of the very products they had walked away from and removed from their shelves. Why is Walmart bringing back products that they had literally given the middle finger to? Because consumers were demanding a wider selection from which they are purchasing. The retailer said last month that its US stores recorded a drop in sales and had a slight decrease in customer traffic in the quarter that ended in January. Even harder for Walmart to acknowledge was the fact that consumers were shopping at other stores to find the products that Walmart used to supply. Even I left Walmart and headed for my local supermarket to buy some Purina dog treats that Walmart had pulled from the pet food section. Bloomberg reported that Walmart has now begun restocking products they removed from their categories of health and beauty suppliers, cereal, pet-free soda, bedding, and laundry detergents. I started this article with the premise: if you are big enough and have a better backup, you can walk away and win. I end this article by stating a premise we have written about for 20 years. Almost always on the going relationships, it is better to develop a win-win outcome where the needs and goals of both parties have been achieved. Hopefully, in round 2 of these negotiations, Walmart will obtain their products, the products their consumers are demanding, and the suppliers can obtain a price from Walmart that keeps them successfully profitable. I would conclude by saying any business arrangement that is not profitable to the other party or to the other person will in the end prove unprofitable for you. So I've read this just to make the point that we have a huge company in KCM. There is smaller businesses that have to do with KCM. KCM can bully like Walmart bullied, but there's a point of equalization. Even Walmart ended up going back to the same people they were squeezing to find a win-win situation. Even KCM will have to find the space. The local community in Chingola will have to find the space as well and work with KCM to find a way forward. What is key is that we put our feet on the ground and relate as equals and attempt to find a win. I had no idea what I would say or talk about when receiving Mr. Gardner's invitation. I hope it has been helpful that I've said what I've said. Thank you
very much. I hope you business people will learn to be better negotiators so that you can also get to the same level as KCM, so that you can be equal in the way you conduct business with them. And I do hope that you have been able to get information regarding the challenges that KCM is facing currently, and also the measures that they are putting in place in order to address these challenges. It is also our hope that we work together in overcoming these challenges, because KCM is a major player in the economic future of this district, and it is important that we work together for the good of all. At this point in time, we're supposed to be going into a question and answer section, but Mr. Landu said that we could have just a discussion, so I don't know how we can proceed from here. Should we go ahead with questions?
You can take some comments.
All right. Okay. Anyone that would like to make the first comments, remark, contribution to what has been presented so far?
Is it restricted to comments or even questions?
Even questions, huh? All right, it's open. Okay.
You spoke about the practical issues that this is going through and have been going through over the couple of years. And you use the word if just saying was, passes over this stuff. Is it a question of if or when?
It's a question of when.
Okay, and the time frame is not known.
The time frame is known, but for business will be the first one to tell me that things can change. The time frame is definitely known. We're looking at we should have, in terms of clearing outstanding amounts, we should have done that at the end of April. It has slipped into May because some of the aspects require us to clear some facilities with lenders and then the business to pick up are looking at getting into October and November somewhere there. Well, in terms of clearing the outstanding, by the end of the day, we should be able to. But the business is stabilizing and turning around to where the risk of cash flow is managed to a large extent. We're looking at somewhere like October, November.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any more remarks, questions, contributions? We're done, eh?
Yes, Mr.
Yeah. You're going to maths, not about Walmart, but before Walmart. You spoke about the business model that you focus on a small scale enterprise being looked at differently, separately from the bigger boys. Because, I totally agree with you, it's a very unfair platform where the smaller business is put in the same basket as the big boys. Because obviously, the small business will be squashed and pushed out of business. I wish KCM will adopt part of the Roman arrangement where they deliberately support the local enterprise, inclusive, including employment. There is a certain category within their employment structure where they cannot employ from outside the district. Certain jobs are highly restricted to people that come from the district and from the villages. And this year would do well to make sure that those jobs like clerical advisors that do not need so much skill are picked from the local district. Escalating it upwards to small scale. There are some jobs that the mines would deliberately offer to the local enterprise without externalizing it to so much competition, which will make the local enterprise unfavorable. And I remember a couple of years ago when there was the credit crunch, most of the companies that stood beside STM were actually the local enterprise, because we can easily negotiate with them. We can easily not manipulate, but you can put the card on the table and it will not just accept. The big boys will tell you sorry because they put them out to survive even without the same. But the small enterprise start on to STM until things were a lot better. And now, what is disappointing is that when the time to share the cake comes, STM invites the bigger enterprise back because they're not able to pay them and shun the smaller enterprise away. I think you need to look at that and make sure that the small enterprise are encouraged to survive and grow to a level where these other big companies are reached.
I would say, I agree, but it's small companies growing to big ones. But what I referred more to is if there's a certain level of business that I think has a case for managing differently. A certain level of size of business. Now, whether you do that in terms of the volume of business, in terms of the money involved, or revenues, or whatever, or you do it in class of activity, is something that we have to think through. But the initial delineation of businesses that would be under so-called under CSR was done, I think, more on volume of business in terms of the amount of money involved. We think that activities like cleaning, small contracted works and things like that, they can basically be bracketed in that. It's not so easy to work it out, but there's a commitment that we need to classify that so that when you decide that you are going to have so many companies on your register that do business with you, there should be Class A and Class B. But if everything is Class A, then clearly you will find that the bigger ones, only the bigger ones will do business with. From the organizational side, from the mining or the larger company perspective, it is easier to supervise one big contractor who is handling all your cleaning for the entire from Konkola to Konkola. And you have to be big. Okay? So you could try and take that model. But if you take that model, it means that an enterprising individual who has the capacity to just clean the hospital and do a good job will have no space. Because at a time that you are advertising that we are looking for tenders for people to do cleaning or sanitation and things like that, to only be the big ones. They'll need the resource, they'll need transport, they'll need the organization, they'll need the divisional manager in Akubwe, divisional manager in Kitwe, divisional manager in Chingola and Chingola. So they'll be big. And most likely the head office might not even be in Chingola, it might be in the south. Okay, so that's one model. And most organizations would want to go for that model because we are dealing with one big organization, etc., etc. But rather than go for that model, you can also choose to deliberately, go for, like, for example, for the facilities that are in Chingola, you might end up having 4 or 5 cleaning contracts. Where the smelter, concentrator, they are cleaned by whatever, mining, that sort of thing. But if you're going to have that model where you small companies that are doing that, then you cannot manage them through one basket where you are dealing with bigger contractors. If you're on a model where you are dealing with a large provider of cleaning services for the entire organization, then he's big enough for you to manage him as well, along with the other bigger companies. So we are thinking that we should continue where we have small organizations, and in fact encourage them, that create the resource within the organization to manage those, and they have to be taken out, maybe place them under CSR and then commercial. They are Class B, and then see that those that have the entrepreneurship are able to grow and become big and things like that, and so on and so forth. So that aspect is what was done before, and we are looking very, very, very hard to see that we can get to do that. The other part is where we deliberately create a mechanism where you can work with especially young or small enterprises, that whether they're small foundries or they're engineering related or whatever else they do, work with them and give them big jobs which are bigger than their current resource. But then if they have the aptitude and clearly, and that's the one I was saying, that is done honestly and whatever is genuinely based on merit, then what you provide them is that they will have the business. They are guaranteed the business. Therefore, they can have the ability to go and get the resource through finance. Now, we did try to do that under local economic empowerment or development. It didn't work very well because these things are not so easy to do. But there's also a commitment internally that let's try and see how we do. Ultimately, it works good for us. It's not charity. Because if these enterprises became big, then there will be the companies that were there before, all your machining works and some spares and stuff like that. You start getting them local because it's expensive to get these resources from outside. But what is happening is that because locally within the community you don't have the resource, a South African, and I'm not saying it to be xenophobic, a South African or an Indian company will find it easier to come here because the resource are set up and provide that resource. So it goes both ways, and those things become tenable when you have, if you have an honest, genuine interaction with the local community, which say, for example, the chamber. It should not be that the large organization, KCM, feels that they are special and they are bigger when they interact with the local people. It should come from them. Because if KCM was doing that, when there is negative things which are genuinely negative, which people are sitting in a chamber, they know that no, that is not true. They'll stand up and say, no, that's not true. That's not the company. But now, because that relationship has not been inculcated, and I'm saying it's the problem with, say, KCM, for example, you don't have such individuals who might be ambassadors. Now, given the current scenario, it's wishful thinking to speak the way I am, because it will be a long, long time before this company gravitates to that kind of level. But it surely should, if the management in the organization is determined. Because what needs to be done is clear. Human beings, especially Zambians, are very forgiving. That's a fact. Why do I say that I'm a Zambian? Because Zambians know, and it's not just Zambians, if you do the right thing today, right thing tomorrow, right thing tomorrow, and you wanted to reach the 10th right thing, and you've seen that these things are genuine, before people perceive the difference. Almost no matter what you've done in the past. And KCM needs to realize that, and actually begin to work. And I did say earlier, it's not a speech that will get the business to be seen in that respect. But we need to see that there is more value for KCM in the local community than rushing to Lusaka and engaging the central bank. I mean, that is also important, but you know, if we sort things out better here and we build genuine relationship and things are working, and not just only in a day, but over months, years, and things like that, the Chingola will benefit. And that's why we value very much this kind of interaction. That sense that this is just an interaction, but there needs to be a deeper engagement and role that KCM plays for that as an equal.
This is a small one. The question I wanted to ask Mr. Nandi is just to tell this book. It's about membership. The Chamber of Commerce in Chingola and KCM. We wanted the Chamber of Commerce where we have a membership where the doors are open to us. Why I requested and insist that this must be there. If we look at the consumption money, FQM money, and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, their relationship is quite tight. The question and concern that was raised by the first vice president on the business community product, taking business which are saying will be bigger for them to run. The relationship between Chamber of Commerce and the FQM, they made it such that these big chunks of business, the management aspect has been taken care of by the Chamber of Commerce. We are dealing with one central office that will take away administrative costs where if this big chunk of, say, cleaning business, they can arrange within the chamber that there are 10 cleaning companies taking up a very big project that can be managed through the chamber. They take away the management constraints and the responsibility from the mines. The chamber manages it effectively, and this is broken down into smaller businesses for the local community to benefit. It has worked very well. And from there, if we look at the local environment in terms of growth, the environmental stress that the district is getting, the locals are so much affected that if KCM was to fail, if it was to fail, companies that are far from us, they will not have so much effects as the people, the community sitting right next to the mines. And so deliberately, this arrangement where the chamber works strongly with the mines and help this community to find sustainable ways of sustaining themselves. If the mines were to fail, they will have a fallback on where you will not have to come back and start mitigating the effects of the third company. This, as a chamber, we still insist that our partnership with the SCM must be so strong that when you are bringing that into business, it will be a responsibility of the party that will help break into consumer levels like us. We need that business. For the sake of the government, sitting right next to you, just that we are smelling the effects of the environmental issues, we will have to have something that we're also benefiting as a community. This must has to be delivered. Then others that are sitting far off, of course, how we can do so. This as a chamber, when we meet in our hospital meetings, this we request and insist that we have a better collaboration and also relationship where you have bigger chance, we can help as a chamber break it down to consumer and services developers.
My comment would be that cases will not fail.
I know. One or the other lecture, there will be natural. So if you are running, you get effects of the environmental issues.
Yeah, no, I understand. But KCM as a business, you shouldn't bank on that. There's a minimum of 25 years of mining activity in Chingola.
I'm not telling you this. We're coming from the last 5 years. We were the brunt of the situation in KCM that we're feeling. The economic benefits have not been seen yet. We are having this discussion as interactive discussion, but what is happening in the community? The needs that we need to survive and the world can income, that's not there. And no matter what happens, what's happening, we need as a community to fully change that the KCM can look at us, we start getting if it's more benefit, if it's business that is one-sided, that is one way. We still get, like you pointed out, we still get our skills. That if we flow to do business with KCM, those skills will take them with us, try farming. Because of what we picked up, we will be successful in farming. We also, the skills that we pick up experiences directly, one or the other will not complete to be using our tool, we're picking up some skills, and this is where we say we still need that.
Yeah. I would say, I don't know the FQM arrangement in the chamber, but we'll try and see what arrangement they have. If I hear you are saying the jobs that KCM will have for contracting out, yes, are brought to the chamber, then the chamber splits them.
We also have to feel that, okay, this is too big for one meeting for one meeting. If there are meetings where the chamber sits with you, we can see which one we can help break down to contribute whatever is necessary for the benefit of the community. That's important. One or the other, when we have created anything, I'm sure to still be reflecting back in the situation of Chingola at this point. That definitely be able assisting in KCM in public sphere.
I think the sentiment that have been put by the president issues of concern. But I think we need also as communities within Chingola to begin to think in terms of working as a team. Because I think I'm not a supplier, but I think the few years that I've interacted being in Chingola, I've noticed that a number of businessmen or suppliers in the mines, they are doing business as individuals. So that when you look at the aspect of negotiations and in terms of the finances, in terms of you get a job with the mining company to supply something, but you find that you don't have the capacity. So in order to build that capacity, we need to start thinking in terms of working as a team, because we know the type of businesses that we are in as suppliers, as maybe whatever business persons you are within Chingola. So, because of that aspect, which also the president has indicated, where the chamber was bringing the chamber in relation to the teamwork. That's why I think if you relate also to some other countries where they are doing it extremely very well, like I think a good example is in South Africa, where you have the COSATU, the union. The union, what they have done is they have within the mining consortium, where the workers are working, they have come up with what they call the worker cooperatives, which are like incubator. The COSATU becomes like an incubator. Just like in the same way, the Chamber of Commerce will become like an incubator to actually help out those individuals or those businesses that have gotten a contract with KCM, but they don't have the capacity in terms of the money. So I think that's the kind of scenario that our suppliers or entrepreneurs in Chingola should start thinking. It's not a thing that you can do it alone. And I think the concept of the Chamber of Commerce becomes a leading and the source in terms of exporting knowledge and other advantages that will help us. But if we just think of doing business as an individual, we'll have it very difficult, we'll have it very rough for us, because you are dealing with all the other big guys. We were talking about the big guys and the small guys. So if we are to become big, the little money that each one of us to put together, we can become a big enterprise, which can actually surprise the KCM. Because most of the people that are suppliers are actually engineers. People who have worked in KCM, they know what actually it takes to do business in KCM. But I think that's the aspect that needs to be looked at. I've actually noticed that.
Yeah, no, I would agree partially with what you stated. Obviously, it's a challenge. I think the chamber needs to, I'm sure it's very clear on its objectives, its goals, and those things. An individual member of the chamber sees what they benefit by association and being a member of the chamber. I think at some point the chamber, like most chambers, see themselves more as something that facilitates the individual growth. The ease of doing business and the opening of opportunities for individual members. I think those will be some of the objectives of a chamber. And it's arguable, debatable, whether the chamber should now become almost like a business or a collective. Those are complicated matters which only the chamber can decide. But some people might argue that one of the roles of the chamber is to make individual members competitive. And also do what has been suggested, that encourage members through association where individual members think they can work together, to come together, work together. Or if they are individuals, excel on their own because the chamber is facilitating and helping to solve common problems that members may have. But usually competition is a good spirit. It would not be uncommon for a chamber to have two members that are in the same line of business. They are competitors, but there's healthy competition. So, and so on and so forth. For KCM, it would be a challenge to engage with an association such as a chamber in a manner where the company, which is a private company, comes and says, with these businesses, we go and distribute as a chamber. But it's a model that we can look at, but it will be, I can sitting here just see that it will be a difficult one. But what is more likely is to work with the chamber and understand, say, for example, how KCM can make sure that they adopt a bias towards the community in terms of giving jobs. That sort of thing is easier. But it's difficult to come to the chamber and say, we have these jobs now, can you share among 10 of you? I mean, you find that the larger community, those who are not members of the chamber start saying, no, but me, I'm a very competitive business. I don't want to be a member of the chamber because they are shy. There are some people who will never be a member of the chamber. You go there, persuade them, no, you're born in society, you're the right business to come, but they're just lazy. Now, if they're not members of the chamber, then they hear that, no, KCM is not only giving these jobs to the chamber, it becomes complicated. But all thoughts, obviously, can be looked at. I think for me, I would see KCM participating in the chamber because it's CSR, but beyond CSR, it's a partnership. It's understanding and encouraging local business to grow and things like that. You know, and facilitating, and those are the opportunities where you see the entrepreneurs that are in the community, etc., etc. But we've taken note of the comment from the president of the arrangement at FQM where the chamber, FQM gives jobs to the chamber and the distributor. We look at that and see if we can understand it. But from the point of view of KCM, I think it's a very difficult one to bring jobs and say, can we distribute around. KCM, I think, would more likely say that this type of job is available to only, say, maybe local, or only this size of business. You know, and then that is the sort of thing that if you're a member of the chamber, you have an advantage, because maybe if KCM begins, and I hope this happens, and it might take some time, but if KCM became an active member of the chamber, the advantage you have is that, you know, it might be announced in the chamber like, oh, within 2 months to start, you know, by association.
Do we have any more questions, contributions? You had the gentleman in the white shirt. Yeah.
Yes. Looking at the contributions from members, as a 90 member, I would think outside the chamber, that's at the limit. It's not at membership. Now, when they say KCM as a key company, how does it come to chamber? I see after keeping more advantage, remember, the chamber. Was it it doesn't support that union? Maybe within the community will not benefit at all. As given an example, the examples are, I mean, we should learn something from others. We're not an and we just say, okay, actually, cannot be completed as KCM country, but then we tend to have very people confidence or let us in this. I'm not going to go much, but I feel a strong feeling that as a company, I think we should take up that's an issue very strong. But it is a chamber, it's a unity. So tonight, that family, I think we must invest a bigger chunk of work. During we are referring to a consistent. That's like it's a group of companies that can put resources together, skills together, and make a difference. So as a chamber, local chamber, I think it's always on the same line. I don't know. That's what I'm
Okay. All right. Well, I think Mr. Lando has pointed out that they are going to carry out some research and find out how FQM is dealing with the Chamber of Commerce in that area. And it is hoped that based on what they'll find out, we might also implement that in Chingola for the benefit of the local businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time. I'd like now to call upon Mr. Emmanuel Gardner to give us a vote of thanks for closing remarks.
On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and you on my own behalf, I'd like to thank the management team for having accepted our invitation. For the time that we've been as a chamber in existence here in Chingola, I think this is the very first time that we have a high-profile management team from KCM engaging in the chamber. And for that, we'd like to thank you, sir, and we hope that the new CEO will be coming, will take over from where you have left, and we will also continue the engagement with the chamber. We do consider the relationship between the local enterprise and KCM very paramount and important because we are in this district where KCM exists, and we feel that we must be the immediate beneficiaries of the stores that are coming from the mine. Had it not been for the mines being in this district, I don't think any of us would still be here. But we are so hopeful and optimistic that the troubles that this is going through will one day come to an end, and then all of us will benefit as residents of Chingola. Like the President mentioned earlier, we also want to focus to work closely with the chamber and become members and help us build the capacity. A couple of years ago, we used to have a bigger group. Now, because most of the members had lost jobs and contracts with the mines, they did see it relevant to still continue researching. But we want to change to a bit differently with SM coming on board, that we can grow the chamber together and be able to discuss business ideas and grow ourselves as individuals, as families, and as companies. May I also thank all of you for having accepted our invitation. This meeting would not have been a success without the presence of each and every one of you. We'll soon be asking you to come and attend more meetings because we have these monthly talks every month. So the next couple of months, we'll let you know who will be coming to come and speak to this business community. Thank you very much and have a pleasant evening.
We're now going to have a closing prayer from Mr. Jerry Saal.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father and God, we thank you that you have brought us together. Just as iron sharpens iron, you have brought us together as one man sharpens another man. We are thankful that you brought in our midst Mr. Handel, who has helped us, Father, to gain an understanding, an accurate understanding of the past of the business that we deal with in KCM, the past that we now have accurate history of where they're coming from, because that gives us a better understanding of where we are at. And Father, so it is for this reason that we pray that you may give us, you may bless us with insight, you may bless us with foresight and the understanding and wisdom as business people in this district, that we may make profitable and prosperous decisions that we have heard that are equitable and that bring a win-win situation for all parties involved. For this, right now, we'd like to thank you and ask you that you may protect us and guide us even as we leave, that even as we move, that we may continue in the same spirit of what we have learned today. All this we ask and pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Yes.